Welcome to the Women of Distance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Kramer. These are the stories of motivated women chasing big dreams in the distance running world. You'll hear from women who are crushing it on the trails, the track, and the road. These are not just the stories of women racing at the top of the sport, but the story of how she got there, the challenges, failures, successes, lessons, and life between the miles. This podcast is produced with support from our good friends, fellow trail runners, and favorite coffee roasters over at Summit Roasters. Check out their website at summit-roasters.com and use code W.o.D 15 for 15% off your order every time. If you're enjoying what you hear, please take a moment to leave us a rating or review on your favorite listening platform and share your favorite episode with a friend. Thanks for listening. Okay, I am hanging out with Jade Belzberg today. Jade, how are you doing? Joining us from Canada.
I'm good, thank you. On my way to recovering post-race.
Yeah, we are just about a week after JFK 50. It was very exciting to watch you come here, race something flat and fast, and throw down the fourth fastest time in the history of the oldest ultramarathon in the United States. I got to be on commentary, watch it all unfold. We are not only going to talk about JFK today, though. You have had a heck of a year this year, and I even would love to go back beyond this year and get to know you both as runner, ultra runner. You've been in the sport for over a decade at this point. And also, like, beyond the running, I think I'm a big reader of your Substack. I think you describe yourself as a writer before you call yourself a runner. And I'm just interested to get to know you beyond the miles as well, and what fills out your life and fills out your depth. To get us started on the running front, I just have to highlight this year that you have had this year, because it has been diverse and really interesting to watch unfold. You raced 13 times this year, is that right?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, and everything from the VK to the 100K, and lots of different terrain. You raced a half marathon to start the year, 116 half marathon on the road. And then you just continued on from there. You ran Chuckanut and placed first there in interesting conditions on that day, difficult conditions.
Yes.
Continued onward from there. Gorge Waterfalls 100K, you were second, where you again raced Shea Aquilano. We'll probably talk about that a little bit with JFK as well. Tillamook Burn 50, you were first female. You were third at the Broken Arrow Ascent. You were seventh then the same weekend in the 23K right afterward. You did the Squamish 50K first female. You ran the VK and the short course trail at World Mountain and Trail Running Championships for Team Canada. And then you're coming here. I think I'm missing a couple things in there. Some smaller local races. You came Squamish? Yeah. No, I said Squamish. And then you came to JFK and raced a fast 50, which was a mix of technical trail, fast running, and kind of a little bit of a piece of everything that you had done this year to wrap it up. Holy cow. I want to talk through each of those events at some point, but I want to, before we do that, go back to where you started. Where did sport or athletics really of any kind first enter your life?
Yeah. So growing up in South Surrey, British Columbia, so really close to the Washington border, I was not into sports. I didn't like sports. No one in my family really did sports. I would have considered myself like an active person. I loved biking. I loved playing tag with friends. I loved especially being outside in nature. But like, I didn't like any of the team sports that I tried.
Yeah.
I did ballet when I was really young and was quite terrible at it. I did track. I remember in grade 3, and I was dead last at all my events. I did taekwondo. I tried a bunch of things. I just didn't enjoy it. And it honestly wasn't until I was 20. So during the end of my college experience, I had just met Nick, my now husband, and he'd been doing trail races all over the world at that point. And he got me my first pair of trail running shoes and a entry to a local race. I think it was like a 10K race in San Diego up and down a mountain. And I loved it. And that's really where where my interest in running started.
Took off right from there. Go back a little bit. I think it's interesting. I asked this question as when did sport or athletics first enter your life? Because it's not always necessarily sport. Like you said, you enjoyed playing tag, you enjoyed being outside and being active, but maybe not necessarily what we think of as sport. How did you and Nick meet? Like, where did that? He's obviously big into trail running already at this point. What was the connection there that brought you two together? Was it outdoors, love of the outdoors in general?
It became that. We actually met on Match.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we both had something about dancing in our profiles.
Okay.
So he was doing a lot of like country dancing. He did like poi and fire dancing. So that
Wow.
was his thing. And at the time I was doing competitive ballroom dancing. So
Oh,
that's,
cool.
yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of where how we started talking on Match.com, but we very clearly bonded over being outside, exploring weird places in the deserts outside of San Diego, more of like the nature and
Yeah.
exploring element than dancing.
Okay, hold on though. Go back to competitive ballroom dancing. That's fascinating. Especially you said you tried ballet and you were quite bad at it. What brought you back around to dance and competing in it?
So I was always told that my grandmother and her brother were like champion ballroom dancers back in the Netherlands. Half my family is all born in Amsterdam. And I
Okay.
think I was looking for a family connection. I'd always been told that I have good posture and a stereotypical like dancer's body. So there was some belief like, okay, I seem to be really bad at all these sports. Like I'm too short for basketball. When I played soccer, I was told like, oh, I didn't even know you were on our team. Like you turn sideways and you disappear. Just constantly being told like I'm too small for all of these things. And it seemed like ballroom was something like, okay, maybe I could actually be good at this. Maybe I could be graceful enough for this sport. Um, it didn't hold my attention long enough because the fussier elements of it have,
Mm.
it's just something that wasn't me. Similar to ballet, I couldn't do like the perfect hair and the leotards and the skirts. It's just not really my style.
It's an investment. Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like me. So ballroom was fun to a certain extent.
All right. So finding trail running, which is moving your body in a different way, but I feel like there's sort of a similar expression and like coordination, footwork, that sort of thing to trail running well, especially technical trail. Talk about what it was that you loved when you had that first experience racing on the trails.
I think it was mostly just being outside. I kind of felt like I was one with nature in a certain extent. It felt fun to match my effort, like in an external way. Um, yeah, I felt powerful in a way I hadn't before.
Yeah. You went pretty quickly into ultra. I think if I had to go way back on your ultra sign up, so forgive me if I'm misquoting this, but was your second or maybe third trail race that I could find was a 50K?
It was actually my first, I believe.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah. The first ultra that I did was rim to rim to rim. Um, yeah, which is a wild start. That was mostly Nick's
Totally.
doing. Nick was like, "Oh, you'll be fine. I'd done a flat road half marathon at sea level. At that point, Nick's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. It's not that much further." So that I finished it, but it was a lot harder than than I think he'd made it out to be.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about that experience a little bit. Like how much of it did you run? What was that? How long did it take you? And rim to rim to rim, for those who don't know, is depending on which way you go, 45-ish miles, and you are crossing the Grand Canyon and then coming back again. So it's a lot of vert as well, in addition to a long way to go.
Yeah. I was 21. I just started running the year before, and I'd never actually seen the Grand Canyon. So running down into it, like in the really early morning, we probably started at 4 a.m. That was the first time I'd actually seen the Grand Canyon. So it was a pretty wild experience
Yeah.
to be seeing it as I'm running down into it. It was hard. I think we ran everything but the climb. So we definitely didn't run um, the North Rim, and we didn't run the South Rim, but we ran all the rest. I think we were just under 13 hours or so. And
Hmm.
by far, it was like the hardest thing I'd done up to that point.
Yeah, but talk about like connecting with nature. Like that's a really unique run specifically to like cover on your feet and see places that you can only see on your feet. There's no other way to get down there. I can imagine that being impactful for you.
Yeah, it really was, and especially as we were starting down the South Rim, like the first few switchbacks, we saw mountain lions, which I've never seen before and hadn't seen since, and they were just like you could make out their eyes like on the like as you rounded a switchback, and that was very cool. I felt very close to nature, of course, in that moment.
Oh, yeah, intimidating though too, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, coming off of that experience, where did you become interested in racing ultra in a different format?
Yeah. So I believe that I raced my first 50K about 3 weeks after that. It was Born to Run. So I'd done Rim Trim as kind of like a training run, which is kind of backwards now that I think about it. But that was that was the impetus for it.
Yeah, low pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And I completed the 50K and I loved it, and I immediately started signing up for more. I think I may have done another 50K that summer, and then I did my first 50 miler down in Santa Barbara later that fall.
Hmm. Hmm. So, what about these longer distances was drawing you in? What were you seeking, or what were you learning about yourself along the way as you went further and further and did different things?
I think it was the curiosity of, can I do this? Is it possible? Like I'd seen Nick do 50Ks and 50 milers, 100-mile races, and I knew eventually I wanted to get up to that point just to see if I could do it myself. Um, and each race that I did felt like a stepping stone towards that, kind of uncovering what my potential could be.
That was my next question. Where was the point that you started to realize not only that you were capable and that you were enjoying what you were doing, but also that you had a talent for it or that you might be good at it?
That's been much more recent, maybe like the
Yeah.
last couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah, because I didn't start, like winning them immediately, even local races. It definitely took a while.
Hmm. Was there like a moment or a race that you can remember that started to click for you?
Yeah, I believe it was Broken Arrow, 2024, like last year, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
much more recent than it seems. And I think I was just so shocked to place second in the 23K. Like especially that distance, because like I knew that I had the grit to endure the harder, like the longer stuff, not harder, like the 50K, 50-mile, 100-mile races. Like I knew I could get through it, but I think I didn't know that I was capable of competing at a higher level until that race.
That's interesting because I would imagine from the outside looking in that maybe other people had a different perspective or a different belief in you. Did you have you coach or family, friends, people around you who were maybe sort of nudging you that you had something here and you were cultivating that proof for yourself?
Definitely Megan, my coach. I think she's always believed it. Um, I grew up with this narrative that I was not athletic. Like I think I
Mhm.
was voted the least athletic in school, um, which is very funny now to look back and
Professional
yes,
athlete, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I truly thought like, oh, this is just not me. I'm just more of like the bookish type. I like being by myself. I like reading and writing and spending time with animals. I'm just not a stereotypical athlete. Um,
Mhm.
so I think it's taken me a long time to kind of turn that on its head.
So let's come over to that side of yourself a little bit. I think, like I said, you've been competing in ultra for over a decade at this point, from that first experience to where you are now. What have you been doing outside of running in this time, both career wise, and I think you have a lot of other hobbies outside of. I don't know. We can't call running a hobby for you anymore, but
Yeah.
for a period of time, it certainly was. What other things were filling out your life in that time as well?
Yeah. So writing has been the focus of most of my life. I thought for sure that was the path I was going to go down. So I got my bachelor's in creative writing, and then I went on and got my MFA in fiction writing. I worked as a freelance writer. I interned at Trail Runner magazine, actually. Um, I thought that that was fully what I was going to be doing. So I think I still identify primarily as a writer, believing that it's going to be a primary focus of my life on the other side of my athletic career.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
It's a different kind of ultra marathon, especially writing fiction, I'm sure, is a pursuit that you have to really invest yourself in, a long-term investment that you have to lean into.
yeah, exactly. There's really no validation in it, at least for most people.
So expand upon, obviously, I read and follow your Substack. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes for anyone else who's not already following it. Where else do you pursue your writing interests and passions?
um, I feel like it's kind of on pause right now, which has felt kind of nice to do.
Okay.
I think at a certain point, I put a lot of pressure on myself, like, oh, like I have to produce something. The writing that I do has to be published. It has to become something. And I think for a while, I was forcing myself to just create as if I was going to lose that identity if I just stopped writing for a while.
Mm.
Um, so it's still present in things like my Substack. I really enjoy writing in any form. So it's always going to be there in some way. It just feels like it's on the back burner right now.
Do you feel a similar sort of relationship with running, that it's a love and a passion that you have? Do you feel like it has to produce a result or produce a thing in order to be, I'm not quite sure what the word I'm looking for is, in order to be a worthwhile pursuit? Or do you feel like you've been able to kind of separate, having that break and that disconnect from writing, not disconnect from writing, but release of pressure from writing? Do you feel like that's translated over into your athletics as well?
It almost feels the opposite. I've never really felt pressure from my running to become anything. Like during COVID, when sorry, and my cat's in the background.
No,
Uh,
you're fine. I know you have a lot of animals
yes,
probably poking their heads
yes,
in here.
yeah, exactly. Um, Yeah, I like during COVID when no races were happening, I had a blast just training for the sake of training because I enjoy the daily process. I love running. So I've never actually felt like my running has to be something that I have to produce something for it to be meaningful.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
never had this, that's really two different mindsets that you carry into those two passions.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Where did sponsorship and professional support first enter the picture for you? Where did, I know that you work with Ultra now. Is that the first true sponsorship that you've had as a runner?
Yeah.
Where did they enter the picture for you?
March of this past year, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about how that has changed, maybe the way that you are racing, running, approaching your running, and also like how it's impacted your life and the way that you are living outside of competing.
Yeah. It's been really nice to feel more supported in
Hmm.
my running. I don't feel like there's any more pressure on me. Like my running is what I make of it ultimately. And I feel really grateful to be with Ultra, and the team manager, Colby, there is fantastic. I feel like I'm cared about more than I'm cared about as a person beyond my race results. And I think that leaves room to actually perform better because that pressure isn't on me. Um, Yeah, it feels like right now it's all positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak for everyone's experience, but at least with Ultra, it's been great.
I think that's incredible to feel supported without the pressure of expectation, being able to do it your way and train, run, perform, race in the way that you want to. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
How has that changed, or how has that shaped maybe the way that you lined up your year this year? We just got done running through this list of accomplishments that you had this year and 13 times that you competed. What, when you started the year, or even maybe when Ultra first entered the picture early in the year, what did your plan for the year originally look like? I imagine it didn't have all of those events on there originally.
Yeah, no, the only ones it had were Chucking Up 50K, which I decided on the previous December, and then I was actually wanting to go the Golden Trail Series route
Hmm.
originally.
Okay.
So I had Broken Arrow on there because it was a Golden Trail Series race, and otherwise I had like Sierra Tenal and Zagama and a bunch of other GTWS races, and obviously that's not the direction I ended up taking. Um, which I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I tend to be someone who goes for races. Um, I have a hard time planning very far out in advance because I'd rather wait to see how I feel to make sure that I'm really excited about it. Oh, there's my cat.
Yeah. Okay, quick for anyone watching on YouTube, a cat just ran across our screen. How many animals, how many cats do you have? How many animals do you have, and what are they?
Yeah, I have 3 cats, 3 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, 3 rats, and 9, soon to be 10 rabbits.
Okay,
Yes,
wow.
yeah.
That's a lot. So
Yeah.
this is completely off topic from where we were going. We'll come back to it. But when you travel, when you race, what happens with all of these animals? How do they get cared for when you are away?
A pet sitter. And that's a whole logistical thing. Every time,
Okay.
yeah, we could only travel if we're able to secure a good pet sitter.
Yeah. Do you have a specific person who knows the routines and knows how to work with all of those different kinds of animals?
Yes, we feel extremely lucky to have found someone. So she's taken care of everyone when we've traveled this year. Although we do like when we can make it work, we travel with most of our pets. So when we went to Broken Arrow earlier in the year, we stayed in Lake Tahoe for like 2 weeks beforehand. We brought as many of the pets down as we could.
Yeah. Okay. That is awesome. That's a big part of the team, though. Like to be able to leave and know that everybody is okay, everybody is cared for. That's such an important piece of being able to be at your best. And part of your well-rounded team is the pet sitter.
100%, yeah. Because I think nothing gives me more anxiety than like knowing whether or not, like, oh my goodness, I hope they're okay. I hope things are taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't pick up the phone and call them specifically to check in.
No, no,
It's
no,
yeah,
no.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, coming back to running. I'm really just interested in how your year ended up playing out and how you pieced things together. So I'm curious, maybe kind of knowing that it wasn't necessarily, it was really just like a one race at a time kind of a plan.
Yeah.
Come up to that half marathon that you started the year with. 116 road half marathon. What inspired you to chase something like that? Very different than 100-mile, 50-mile trail races.
I really wanted to work on my speed this year because I thought that it would benefit all other aspects of my running. I
Yeah.
had done a trail, like a gravel path half marathon, the previous fall, and had run 120 flat and totally surprised myself. Like I thought, there's no way I'm ever doing that. Like maybe 130 I can hope for. So that gave me a lot of confidence in thinking like, oh, okay, maybe if I actually train specifically for this, I can run a really fast time, and that'll set me up well for the rest of the year. So that was kind of the
Hmm.
goal with the Vancouver first half.
Was that still with Golden Trail type things in your mind and like that sort of strength and speed that it takes to compete in Golden Trail?
I think was actually more in mind for Chuck and I. Just with the
Okay.
layout of the course of like the flat 10K to start and then the flat 10K to finish. I thought that there was room for me to improve that from what I'd run the previous year.
Talk about this race a little bit. Chuckanut very famously had weather this year. A lot of people suffering from hypothermia and things like that. I think you had run this race before, and talk a little bit about what maybe just familiarity with the course and also how you took care of yourself on that day to be able to come out, not only come out victorious, but come out healthy and in one piece from a tough weather experience.
Yeah, I had made the last minute decision to wear a Gore-Tex rain jacket, and I was looking around at the start and thinking, "Oh man, like, am I gonna get so overheated here because no one else on the start line is wearing a rain jacket?" And I think ultimately that ended up saving my race. Those conditions were completely different compared to the year prior. I had worn actually this in the most recent race. I had worn Road, like Ultra's Road super shoes, the carbon
Hmm.
vanishes, because I thought, oh, I can handle these trails. They're relatively smooth, and I want to put as much as I can in my favor of running fast for the start and
Hmm.
finish. And that was a huge mistake, of course, because it was just
Mud.
so muddy. I was like having to grab onto trees as I ran all the downhills because I was
Wow.
so afraid of sliding out. Um, yeah, that felt very much like a grit race. It felt more like 100-mile race
Hmm.
where this is really hard, but I just have to hang in there, and eventually I will finish. And I kind of felt like the last woman standing
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how your 100-mile experience comes into play there as opposed to the half marathon speed and experience in that realm that you were hoping to carry into it.
Yeah.
Um, had you, when you lined up for Chuckanut, had you already put Gorge Waterfalls on your calendar, or is that something that came after the race?
I believe that's something that came after the race.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
inspired you to go to this one? This is a different kind of trail, really runnable, I think, but also really rooty and obviously double the distance of what you'd just done at Chuckanut. What inspired Gorge Waterfalls?
It sounded fun. I'd never run a race in Oregon prior to that, and I thought that there was a lot of room to improve my 100K time. Um, yeah, those were the main reasons.
The competition, I think, at this race was also deep and interesting. It was the qualifier for the long trail team for the U.S. World Mountain and Trail Running Championship team. I'm interested to hear your experience in the race. This is the first time this year that you and Shay sort of went head to head in this race. Talk a little bit about your experience at the race itself, what you learned and improved upon for yourself, and what it was like racing together. You both went under the previous course record. Top three, I think, went under the previous course record at this race. Um, just expand on that whole race and experience a little bit.
Yeah, I think that having continually put myself in competitive races the year prior, and then having had the recent experience at Chuckanut, I felt more confident to hang up near the front and to really put myself in the mix to try to win the race. My coach had thought that I could run a 9:26, which I think was under the course record. I ended up running like within 20 or 30 seconds of that. So
Wow.
she's quite fantastic at predicting my abilities. But it was such a great experience to practice believing in myself, knowing that I could be up there, that it was hard, but I could hang on,
Hmm.
and to kind of rely on my strengths. I tend to be a strong finisher, and to know that I can get through it, and I can, yeah, I can manage the kind of the anxiety that comes from uh, being in the mix for that many hours.
Yeah. Expand on that a little bit. I know that you also worked with a mental performance coach this year. Was that new this year?
Yeah, that started in September.
Okay. Okay, really recent toward the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll come back to it then. We'll get to it along the way. I'm really interested to talk about that piece as well. Um, Finishing the race, what kind of confidence do you feel like you built for yourself being able to, like you said, stay in it, hold on, stay mentally engaged and physically on all the way through the finish line?
A ton. I mean, I think with it also being a Team USA long trail qualifier, that made that just gave me a lot of confidence to think, oh, okay, like I can compete at the short distance and I can compete at the long distance, and I can kind of carry my strengths through a variety of
Mhm.
events.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Talk about the Canadian World Champs, the process for qualifying for Team Canada for the World Champs. What did that qualification process look like? What different distances teams did you apply for or want to be on?
Yeah. So for the 2023 World Championships, because of the COVID year, Canada just had like a resume
Mhm.
application. So I'd submitted with whatever races I'd done previously and got onto the uh, VK course and the long trail course. So I ran both of those in Austria in 2023. For 2025, we had an actual race. So the trail running qualifier. So for the short course and the long course, that was Squamish 50K in
Mm.
2024. So I won that race, and so I was automatically on the short course for 2025. And then last fall, I ran the Défi des Couleurs out in Quebec. I ran the VK and the classic up down and came second in both of those events, and so qualified for two more events for 2025.
Okay. And then the long trail team, did you have any interest in pursuing a spot on that team as well?
No,
Okay.
no. I knew I could only run two events. I had the option to run all three, but there was no way. Like with the way the races are set up, I would not have been able to recover between.
Sure. Okay. To do well in the ones that you really wanted to invest in. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That has to really mean something, though, to have earned your way onto the team in those three distances for Team Canada, and then to also show up at the U.S. qualifier. And were you pursuing a spot on the U.S. team to have earned your spot there, to be able to have that range to show up with world class competition in all four distances is something.
Thanks.
Um, what kind of do you feel like you walked away from that or maybe walked into your next race with a different level of confidence then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going into the Broken Arrow ascent race, because that was also another Team USA qualifying race. I mean, the competition was stacked there.
Yeah.
And I had some amount of nerves, of course, but having kind of exceeded my expectations at the 100K weirdly gave me confidence for the VK too.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, in the Broken Arrow Ascent, you were third overall, which would have again been a qualifying spot on Team
Yeah.
USA if that's what you were competing for.
Yeah.
You had talked too about having this interest in the Golden Trail World Series. Where did you change and shift directions in there to decide? Obviously, Broken Arrow is part of that series, but for the other races that you had on your schedule, where did you shift and change that plan or interest?
Yeah. A lot of it came down to just logistics. The travel that the Golden Trail World Series requires just didn't make any sense. I knew that I was in for Worlds. I wanted that to kind of be a highlight of my racing year. And I couldn't foresee like traveling to Europe another two times that summer.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work with our life. So I pivoted.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who were doing that stayed and didn't do the back and forth travel because it's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
that's a big investment too to
Yeah.
go and to stay in Europe for weeks and weeks at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would have missed out on like the absolute peak season
Yeah.
here in BC, which I really love.
Understandable. Yeah. So, okay, maybe then we're coming around to mental performance coaching at this point before we get into world championships. Where did you decide that that was something you wanted to seek out, and how did you find a support or a professional to work with as a mental performance coach or consultant?
Yeah. It happened more because I stumbled upon a podcast with Dr. Scott Frey, who's the person I work with. I didn't necessarily have it in my mind to try to seek out a sports psych. I just thought that what he does is fascinating. He focuses more on brain training than traditional sports psychology, and I thought that that was such a neat component and something I'd never actually heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of
So
where my interest started.
expand on that a little bit. What do you mean brain training?
Yeah. So I mean, he'll talk to me about like more traditional sports like visualization and a lot of things that I wrote about on my Substack. But he also he's a neuroscientist, and so he sets me up with various. They're sort of like games in a sense on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the idea is to put me in a high pressure environment and to force me to maintain concentration, focus, and calm so that when this happens during a race, I'm familiar with that and I know how to control my emotions and still concentrate.
Hmm. That's fascinating. And to do
Yeah.
that in a less heightened physical state so that you can actually focus on the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a lot of it has to do with fatigue resistance too. So often the sessions are like immediately following a hard workout. So I'm
Mm.
already tired, I'm already spent, and now I have to go straight into focusing and concentrating and trying to aim for trying to execute.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Talk about then coming into world championships as you were beginning to get these skills under your belt. How do you feel like that impacted you, or what did you notice was different in your next as you moved forward with performance, move forward with racing?
Yeah. I feel like my problem solving was better, that I could kind of
Mm,
just stay with the discomfort and recognize that I was uncomfortable or the race wasn't going as well as I had wanted and that that was okay. For example, and I know that I'm not alone in this, like I got stung by bees and I'm
mm,
allergic, like in the
mm.
first mile of the short course. And so initially I was panicking, like, oh no, like, what does this mean for my race? Am I going to have to drop out? Is this going to be a medical emergency? But then there was like the secondary part that was able to talk to that first part and keep me calm and say, hey, like right here, right now, this is all that's actually happening in this moment. You just have to get through this moment. And yeah, I credit a lot of that to the work he's been doing with me.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit. What did you actually do? Like, I can imagine eh, you're in a heightened competitive state, the world championship. This course is really hard, and you have this, it could easily be a panic inducing situation on its own without all of those other elements around it. What did you actually do in that moment to get yourself through safely, healthily, and with your mind intact still with you?
Yeah, it sounds really simple, but I just kept breathing and telling myself right here, right now. I repeated that over and over to myself, like right here, right now, this is all that's actually happening. And then eventually the race was done, but I had to tell myself that so many times.
Mm, So did you ever like when you say you're allergic to bees, did you ever have like a real what kind this is maybe this is too personal. I don't know. Don't answer it if you don't want to. What kind of allergy how does your body respond to that?
I haven't had like a really bad anaphylactic shock in a long time, but I've carried
You
like an
have?
EpiPen, yeah, for most of my
Wow.
life. So I got stung 3 times. The worst one was on my ear. Like my ear,
Mm,
even for like a week after, was like 3 times its normal size. And that was just worrying me during the race because, like, yeah, I could feel like my back, and it kind of like another one kind of got me in my groin, and that was uncomfortable. But I just kept touching my ear, and like it was expanding and expanding. I'm like, oh no, like how close is it to my neck? Am I not going to be able to breathe? And yeah, luckily none of that happened. But of course, your brain goes to kind of worst case scenarios because you're already heightened just from the effort alone.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's intense, and that has to be really empowering to be able to work your way through that and come out unscathed. Maybe is the wrong word. It sounds like you were dealing with it for a little while after, but safely and healthily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So you did not end your season at World Championships. I think talk about you had a great series at the World Championships. You did the VK and you were, I don't have that off the top of my head, 13th. And the Canadian team did really well overall in the VK.
Yeah.
Then you did the short course and you did fantastic in the short course, 38th overall with bee stings, with all of this that you were dealing with. That's a fantastic week in and of itself. Where did you decide that you weren't quite done yet for the season coming off of World Champs?
Pretty soon after, I have a pattern of recovering really fast. And I felt like my fitness was weirdly better coming out of Worlds than it even was going in. So Megan had suggested JFK 50 because it kind of gave me enough time to train. I think in a different way because I'd focused so much on vert over the summer, and I knew that I wanted to be as fast as possible for something like JFK. So we kind of had to transition to more marathon style training.
Hmm.
Um, but it worked out time wise.
So, what was your response when she suggested something like JFK? Aside from that half marathon, this is the flattest thing you've done all year, I think.
Yeah, I loved it. I'd like vaguely had it in my mind. I was like, oh, maybe that'd be a good race. Um, Again, like I'm starting to become more and more attracted to competitive races. I think more than anything, I'm finding them so valuable beyond just the
Hmm.
race itself and like whatever the result is, that's great. But I'm learning so much about myself and developing so much confidence just from putting myself in those environments. So I thought, what's there to lose?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so talk about your experience actually coming to the race. I'm eager to kind of dig into this one. We've got three different segments. You have pretty much all of your climbing up front. There's very little climbing left after the first 5 or 6 miles of the race. You have the Appalachian Trail, which is highly technical, but you're just coming off of the world's course, like which was also highly technical in maybe a different way. And then you have 35 miles of pure, honest running, most of that being on flat, completely flat canal towpath.
Mhm.
Um, Talk a little bit about your experience well, let's talk about your travel because I think this is interesting too. It took you some time to get to the East Coast. Talk about your travel experience to get here.
Yeah, I was worried about the government shutdown because all of this was happening when we were booking flights. So originally we were going to fly Seattle to DC, but we changed it to Vancouver to Toronto just to be safe. I really wanted this race to happen regardless. So we did that, and then we spent the night in Buffalo, New York, and then we drove the rest of the way down into Maryland.
Okay, and that's like an 8-hour drive or so from Toronto. Well, not from Buffalo. Buffalo is probably a little shorter, but
Yeah,
Toronto to Maryland is going to be about 8. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
that's a big trek. And which animals did you bring with you?
We only brought my little dog Cashew.
Okay,
Yeah.
just one this time for
Yeah,
the
just one.
cross continental travel.
Yes, yes. He's the only practical one to bring when it comes to flying.
So when you got to town, I feel like because I'm so familiar with this race, I think it's common. It either goes one or two ways. People want to get their eyes on the trail because maybe they've never seen it before and they don't. Technical has a lot of different definitions depending on who you talk to. And then you have other people who don't want to see it at all and just want to face it when they get into the race. Which way did you go? Did you do any put your eyes on the course in any fashion, or did you wait until race day?
I waited until race day. And that was more just a factor of I wanted to prioritize rest and calm.
Hmm.
And it didn't make sense for us to get there any earlier to see the course.
Yeah, that makes sense. What shoes did you choose for the first 15 and a half miles?
I wore the Mont Blanc Carbons, which are ultras like trail super shoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did the trail segment go? It was interesting. I don't want to give away your Substack. I want people to go read it, but I thought that the trail was going to be fast this year. I felt like because it had rained the night before and that kind of like packed down the leaves, which is an asset up there. It can be when the leaves are crunchy and fresh, you can't see any of those rocks and you're just hoping for the best as you run across it. So it seems to me like the rain coming in was going to be an asset. How did you feel about the condition of the trail and the technicality of it? How you felt on it?
Yeah. It wasn't as bad as I had thought it might be. I'd never actually been on any section of the Appalachian Trail, so I was just kind of going off of what people had said, which exactly what you said, like rocky with leaves covering it. So good luck not rolling an ankle. Um, yeah, I didn't really cling to any expectation. It was foggy up there. It was kind of spookier than I thought it might be. Um, we got lost a couple times, both Shay and I, and a couple male runners.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we got diverted off. I mean, it wasn't like anything major, but we went like up a couple roads that we were not supposed to go up. But it still felt really calm at that point, I think because I wasn't clinging to anything specific.
Mm. It's funny. So the night before JFK, I did an episode with Sarah Beal, who is one of the top one of the fastest times on this course. And she told me the same thing, that she got lost a couple times along the trail. And there definitely are a couple spots that you can, especially, I would imagine, in the fog. It was pretty dense and difficult to see, and you're not following like a huge train of people at that point to lead you in the right direction. Um, that's fascinating to know that you got lost up there a couple times and had to get turned around and rerouted. Um, on the trail segment, how close were, I believe coming off the trail was Shay in first, you in second, Hannah in third. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
Yeah, exactly.
How close did you perceive to be to either of them? Could you see each other up there? Were you really just running your own and staying at your own effort?
Pretty much just staying at my own effort. I know Shay's quite a good downhill runner, so I figured she'd get ahead of me there, which she did. People were just updating me, like anyone I pass. They're like, "Oh, she's 20 seconds ahead. She's 36 seconds ahead. She's 45 seconds ahead." It never really got farther than that, so I wasn't. It's like, okay, that doesn't really mean anything in the context
Right.
of this race being this long. Um, I thought that Hannah might be maybe like a minute or less behind me. Like occasionally I would hear a female voice somewhere in the distance behind me, but I wasn't exactly sure.
Coming off of the trail, did you change shoes? And if yes, what did you change to?
Yeah, I switched to road shoes so the carbon vanishes again.
Okay. And
Yeah.
coming off of the trail, did you see either of those other two women in that transition area?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, didn't see them at all.
Okay. All right. So here's where I caught up with the race. Saw you guys coming off of the trail, but I think the camera had missed Shay coming off the trail. So we weren't quite sure how close you were together. The next view in the commentary booth that we got of you was a shot of a bike camera following you and one following Shay. And it was hard to tell, but it sure looked like you guys were really close when you got onto the canal path. Um, what was that transition like? Like, I know coming off of technical trail, coming off of a big descent, and then getting right into flat, fast, runnable is challenging. And then I'm sure it was not very long before you could actually see Shay and were kind of aware of what was happening with that race.
Hmm.
Talk about those just first couple, maybe 4 or 5 miles on the canal and how you were adjusting, getting your bearings and deciding how you were going to approach the next couple hours.
Yeah. I felt actually really good coming off. Megan had warned me that it might take a couple miles to kind of get settled, just going from trail to road. But like right away, I was like, "Oh yeah, this feels so good. I'm really ready for this." And I did do a lot of my long runs were set up to mimic it. So
Hmm.
I would do kind of like a warm up or even like a steady state effort on trails, and then immediately transition to fast road running. So maybe my body had kind of become used to it, familiar with that. Um, as I like got into like a straightaway on the towpath, I could see Shay maybe like a minute, maybe 90 seconds ahead. And that didn't concern me because again, like I figured there were like so many miles.
So long. Yeah.
And I felt really good, and I like very quickly saw or noticed that I was catching her faster than I
Hmm.
had thought I would be. Um, so I was running like 640s,
Mm.
and so I was guessing like, okay, maybe she's running like 650s to seven, so it's not going to be forever until I'm able to catch her.
Hmm. Where did you start? Well, this might come first. Where did you become aware that Hannah was closing in on you or was coming up to where you were?
Yeah, so like around mile 18. So like 3 or 4 miles in, I guess 3 miles into the towpath, I realized I was very, very close to catching Shay, but I really had to use the bathroom. So I was like trying to time it with like this biker behind me who I hadn't really spoken with and like make sure there's no one else around. And then I was thinking like, okay, well, I don't want to pass Shay and then immediately dart into the bushes. So I'm going to take care of
Right.
this first and then I'll repass her later. Um, so I think when I came back out, Hannah had probably caught up to me because I think I saw her within like 30 seconds, a minute
Okay.
after that. So I was like, okay, Hannah's here now. Um, and then like I could tell that Hannah was trying to pass me. Like she ran with me for a little bit and then all of a sudden she increased her pace. I was like, okay, like she's trying to surge ahead and pass me. I don't know. I feel really good. And I could hear her, like I could hear her breathing. And she sounded more winded than I was.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, maybe this is giving me some confidence. I think she's working harder than me. And so I can probably keep this up. Whatever she decides to run, I'm pretty confident I can match her. Um, and then we caught up to Shay together.
Yeah. Okay. This was fun to watch on the live stream because it was like we could see there was a follow camera with Hannah and a camera with you and one with Shay. And so we could see all three of you together in the frame, Shay up ahead and then Hannah coming up behind you. And it looked like she was going to overtake you. And we started to have that sort of commentary. We were talking about that. And then it was like, oh, wait, no, Jade is not letting her go. You could see it happening that you were going to stay with, you were not going to let her just run away from you.
Yeah.
Um, how long did it take you to catch up with Shay ahead of you?
Oh, maybe a mile, I
Okay.
think. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
trying to think
Working
because
together.
because we had a bit of a conversation, and I think maybe we were talking for like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, it seemed like it. You
Yeah,
seemed very comfortable. You could tell that there were words being exchanged there.
yeah,
I think that just has to be a sign that you're comfortable where you are. You're doing well.
yeah.
You all came into the mile 27 cruise spot essentially together within a few seconds of each other.
Hmm.
And then we did not get to see the cameras move to the men's race shortly after that. So we didn't get to see a whole lot until you came through maybe 5 or 6 miles down the road. What were the dynamics like leaving that cruise spot? And at what point do you feel like you took the lead and stayed there through the rest of the canal? Or did that happen? Maybe you didn't feel like you stayed in the front on the canal at any point.
No, it kind of felt like I was in the front the rest of the time. Like Shay would occasionally, like she, I would think that I'd lost Shay, and then all of a sudden I could hear fast footsteps behind me, and then she would reappear again. And then I think she would try to surge ahead, but then I wouldn't let her go, and then she would eventually fade back. And I feel like that happened a handful of times.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I think at the final aid station, she got out ahead of me because I dropped one of my gels, and she's really good at doing like the fast transitions with the like swapping the vests. And so I
Hmm.
believe that she started out ahead of me, and then I caught her probably within half a mile, and then that's when I just fully took the lead. But that was not until 38 point something, 39.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this race stays on this flat canal towpath through 42 miles, and then you get off and you get onto rolling country roads. Describe the rolling country roads. I feel like your description of them was maybe different than I would have expected.
Okay. I thought they were a lot harder than I'd
Okay.
been told. It was hard to believe, like, wow, okay, this is like really how we have to finish. This is pretty intense. Um, it made me feel good to know, like, right as we leave the towpath, there's a pretty steep climb
Hmm.
up. And I thought that that would work in my favor because as I'm racing, I'm kind of half paying attention to what the other women around me are doing, where I'm perceiving their strengths to be. And I noticed that on the Appalachian Trail, um, I would immediately start gapping Shay and Hannah, like whenever we hit a climb. And they would
Mm.
reel me back in like on the descents, but every time we hit a climb, it felt relatively effortless for me to gain on them. And so I thought I could use that to my advantage um, here too. So every hill that I hit in those final 8 miles, I tried to run as hard as I could, knowing that that was hopefully buffering me some time on the descents.
Yeah, that's a fascinating perspective to know that you felt like it was harder than you expected, but it was hard in a way that suited your strengths. So you could really lean into that even though it was really hard. That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
exactly.
So, was there any point, either throughout the race or even just in that final stretch, that you were aware of how fast you were running and how, like, in a historical comparative sense, that was shaping up for you?
Not really, because I wasn't
No.
looking at my overall time at that point. I had dropped Nick had tried to pass me 4 gels for the final 8 miles, and I'd been having some kind of like stomach issues, which I don't normally have in races. I just felt pretty nauseous. And so I'd handed one back to him, and then I'd accidentally dropped one. So I only had two like 30-gram gels, which is a lot
Mm,
lower than I would normally take. So I was more concentrated on trying to like to dole it out so that I didn't bonk. I was afraid of bonking at the
yeah.
end. So I was paying more attention to time with regard to that. Like, okay,
Hmm.
I don't know how long this is going to take. Maybe like 50 minutes. Because the race ran a little bit longer than I expected to, at least like what my watch was giving me. So that's more where my concentration was.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a real, I mean, bonking is a real fear regardless, but the race was still really close at this point. I think just over 90 seconds at the finish line is what separated you and Shay.
Yeah.
Um, Talk about one of the things I was curious. We know this course does not allow headphones. You've done plenty of racing with that on courses that don't allow headphones this year. This one in particular, though, just being like so long and flat and monotonous. What kind of things are you talking to yourself? Like, what does the internal self talk look like through 6 hours of in your own head?
It's funny to reflect on because I've been asking myself that too. Like at first it was intimidating to know, okay, I'm just going to be running 6 hours and that's a long time on flat terrain to just be in my own head thinking. Um but now when I go back to it, I'm like I didn't really think, like I felt so present and focused on what I was doing. So it was constantly monitoring, like, okay, like what's my heart rate? How does this actually feel? Where is Shay and Hannah? When do I need to eat? Like I was just kind of going through the motions in a way
Mm-hmm.
that felt very beneficial.
That's impressive. Like, do you feel like it was really a flow state kind of day or not quite to that level?
Not quite to that level, more just like I've done so much of this in training. I've done so many harder efforts in training by myself that I know I can do this, and I wouldn't say it was like a plus day for me. Like I felt pretty decent. Um, but the familiarity of it all, I think, really helped.
Yeah. You talked on your Substack about the mental preparation that you did for this and the visualization that you did for this. I won't make you repeat it again. I want people to go read it because it was a good read. It was an interesting read as well. So I can even understand that like familiarity with the course, even though you had never been on it, that you kind of were familiar with where you were in any given moment and familiar with the headspace. I think that's really cool. That's interesting.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I'd been we had really, really rainy, cold weather here in October and for most of November. And every like easy run or workout that I did, I was constantly thinking like, okay, I'm ready for what these trails are probably going to look like too. Like I can fully
Yeah.
imagine everything is bare. There's a bunch of leaves on the ground. It's kind of chilly. I was constantly trying to put myself in that space.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you ended up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about feelings crossing the finish line. Fourth fastest time in history. We are seeing the front end of the women's pack and the women's pack as a whole getting faster. The top 10 coming in behind you was also the fastest in course history. Just talk a little bit about the feelings of coming across that finish line with your own what your own the reflections on your own performance were like, and also just being part of that strong women's field.
um, it just felt like a delight. Like I was surprised in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew I was capable of running a time like that, but it's another thing to actually put it in practice and to have it all come together. Um, so it was just a pleasant delight when it actually happened.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just good.
Yeah. Yeah,
I like it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to describe it. There's a part of me that's still so surprised that I am where I am. This is just not the path I expected my life to take.
Mhm.
Um and I feel like each race, like it's happening and I'm still so like in amazement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels joyous.
Yeah, that's a really neat place to be. And I think, like you said, kind of each race building upon the one before it, and the confidence and the skills that you're gaining, but also the confidence that you're building in yourself from race to race, that you belong up here, you are succeeding up here and doing it with joy, enjoying what you're doing and pursuing it in your own way, having the freedom to pursue it in your own way. It's just really fun to watch from the outside looking in, and
Thanks.
inspiring to watch. Yeah.
Thank you.
So coming to the end of this year, you are done racing for the year, yes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
How do all of these experiences that you've been compounding upon throughout the year then shape maybe the way that you're feeling at the end of the year and what you're looking at in the year ahead, or how you're even looking at yourself in the year ahead?
Yeah. I'd kind of like to continue everything that I've been doing. Um, so I'd like to keep doing a variety of distances. That feels really fulfilling to me. I think it's beneficial for the kind of runner I am as well. And I want to keep putting myself in competitive races. So I'm looking at going kind of trying for a golden ticket this spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you going to be pursuing that opportunity?
I'm trying to decide between Terraware and Black Canyon right now because they're on the
Okay.
same day.
Same day,
Yeah.
yes. Sort of. I mean, one's on the other side of the world, so I don't know if
Yes.
they actually
Good point.
same time zone, but yeah, same date on the calendar.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. That's going to be really exciting to watch. Either way that you choose, and we'll be excited to see how your next couple months unfold in that direction.
Thanks.
I know that's difficult if you're in the golden ticket chase, it's difficult to plan much far beyond June, because you don't know how things might unfold in there. Do you have beyond June any other thoughts or ideas about what is interesting to you for the rest of the year?
Um, yeah, I'd like to do a couple FKTs. I miss doing FKTs. That'll just depend on how things work out with races and how I feel. I kind of feel like there's a no lose. Yeah, like there's no way to lose with the golden ticket races because even if I don't get them, um, there's so many other races that I want to do and different
Yeah.
ways I could structure my year. And I think that part feels cool is regardless of if I'm competing at a professional level, I would like to do these races. And so it's kind of just a matter of picking when they work.
It seems like it has worked really well for you too to be able to sort of go with the flow, that, you have an idea of how you want to structure things, but you can also let that unfold as it does, as you feel like it works for you along the way.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I feel very grateful that Ultra is okay with me doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we are looking at mid-February then for your next do you think you'll do any racing in between now and then?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, yeah, relatively.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got time though. It is. We'll be in December by the time this comes out. So we've got 2.5 full months. Yeah. Plenty
Yeah,
of time. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I feel like I have kept you for a while this afternoon. I have one final question for you before we go. And that is a question I ask of everyone who comes on the podcast. Interested to hear your answer to this. I think it's a unique time in your life, perhaps. If you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say to keep following your instincts, keep doing what feels good to you specifically. Because I wouldn't have changed anything. I think everything unfolded as it needed to unfold.
Mm. And is still. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's still unfolding, but I feel like everything had to happen the way it happened for me to be here.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. Jade, it has been a joy getting to know you a little bit deeper today. And I just appreciate you sharing so much of yourself and sharing your story. And I'm just so excited to see where the rest of the next couple months, the next year, several years takes you. Keep leading by joy. It's inspiring to see, and it's inspiring to follow your example in the way that you are doing things as well.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.